on see ya in the rearview mirror. Time to look back at the draft and see how these teams fared with some of their picks. It's something we are calling Spring Fling, going division by division right here on Good Morning Football. So far, we've broken down the picks out of the NFC East and the NFC North. Today, we move on to the NFC South. Nate, we're going to start with you. We're going to start with the guys who took Kyle Pitts at number 4, the Atlanta Falcons. Now, here's what NFL.com says. They said, leading up to the draft, the Falcons needed an edge rusher, cornerback, offensive line help, like every team in the NFL, safety, and quarterback. So looking at this list, who do you like?
Right at the top, let's go with Kyle Pitts. I'll touch on Richie Grant as well. But I like the fact that they went Kyle Pitts because if they would have went quarterback, say they went
Fields,
that's what I was thinking of, who's a Georgia guy.
Yeah.
They're sitting back, they draft a guy who's homegrown. I don't think we would have batted an eye, especially with the conversation surrounding Matt Ryan and his time nearly being up. He'll be a quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons the next couple of years. But I like the fact that they went with the big swing. Kyle Pitts now lining up next to Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley has been fantastic. I don't think people are really paying attention to how good he's been. We're talking 26 touchdowns over the last couple of seasons, and Julio Jones is a beast. Now, with the simple fact that Julio Jones has not been healthy year in and year out, week in and week out, I love this selection because we keep describing him as a tight end. Oh, he's the highest tight end taken since 1967. This dude is a wide receiver. I know he's big and he's strong, and you look at his frame, but that's the same thing Julio Jones was. And now, if Julio Jones can stay healthy with Calvin Ridley and the additions that they have on this offense, Matt Ryan can have the perfect offense to really ride off into the sunset, prove that he is the QB, and have a great showing over the next couple of years. This was a great selection. Then I want to touch on Richie Grant because they needed it. They needed a safety to come in. And he is a guy that Schrager talked about, that we talked about here on the table, and they landed him, Kyle Pitts and Richie Grant. I love their selections. Let's see if Atlanta can put it together because we've been waiting for these guys to make plays, make some waves happen in their division, in their conference, since they lost that Super Bowl.
Okay, let's move on, guys. Great stuff from Nate there. Kyle, you've got the Panthers, according to NFL.com. What do they need? Of course, O-line. Weird. Cornerback help. Also, lots of teams needing that. Wide receiver, safety, and tight end. If you take a look at notable picks that you're seeing right here, they checked off some boxes here. Some of the players drafted by the Panthers are shown, and you need to pick one to wax poetically about.
Well, obviously, J.C. Horn was your classic fast riser right before the draft. Everybody fell in love with him in the last month, and they take him number 8. But I'm going to go to the wide receiver they took in the second round. Say it with me, everybody. Terrace Marshall Jr. Remember, Cecil Fielder used to be called Cecil, don't call me Cecil Fielder. Terrace, don't call me Terrence Marshall Jr. Terrace. Now, what's fascinating about him, obviously you're seeing the highlights against LSU. There was a time 2 years ago when the LSU wide receivers were Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Terrace Marshall Jr. If you're wondering how that went, ask the Texas Longhorns. There was a game in which all 3 receivers at 100 yards against Texas. They're crazy like that. And it's also like, you know, when the Alabama guys came out last year, you have Ruggs and Judy and Lamb, and I think Lamb was looked at as a superstar. Terrace Marshall is not looked at as a superstar of that trio right now, but we don't know how that's going to go. We don't know how the Alabama guys are going to shake out. We don't know how these guys. What we know is that Terrace is big. He is not the fastest. He is not the most dazzling. He is the biggest. And as we learned this week, Matt Rule is coming out and saying, we believe in Sam. We believe in Sam Darnold, and maybe that's lip service. No, not at the draft. They drafted guys to go around him. No one more noticeable than a big old 6'3" wide receiver from LSU named Terrace Marshall Jr. I like it. Sam Darnold, throw it high, my man.
6'3", unbelievable. I'm excited to see what those Panthers can do. Let's go with the Bucs. Would you guess, Shrags, what position they needed help with according to NFL.com?
There was no position, so what'd they say?
Offensive line. Again.
NFL.com loves the offensive line.
Wide receiver. They need a quarterback. And running back. Taking a look at their notable picks, they covered a lot of that ground. Who's your favorite?
All right, I love the Kyle Trask pick, and I love it because they said after the fact that they were considering taking Kyle Trask in the first round. And they almost took Trask at 32. They take him on 64. But why do I love it for a guy who never started a high school game and who had a great career at Florida? Why do I love that pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Because of the communication around the pick.
It's a theme today.
We talked about it in the start of the show with the Rodgers and Love pick, and communication fell apart going into that. Listen to what Bruce Arians had to say when Rich Eisen asked him about, hey, did you keep Brady in the loop before drafting Kyle Trask?
Oh, yeah. Tom and I talk all the time, and, he's texting me back and forth who you think the next pick's going to be, and he's all in, man. Anything that makes our football team better for now and the future, Tom just wants to win. And, we talked about this a month or so ago that this could possibly happen. if the right guy fell.
A month ago, gave him a heads up, said, Brady, we might be taking a quarterback. Brady says, yeah, cool, go, do whatever. I'm in wherever, and I'm enjoying my life.
Thanks for letting me know, though.
Thanks, though. I like the heads
Appreciate
up.
the call.
It's courteous. It's nice. But, yeah, he and Bruce talk all the time in the offseason, and that's key. That's why they're a Super Bowl championship team, and that's such a big difference than what we're seeing fall apart up there in Green Bay, Wisconsin. But Kyle Trask, I like the pick. Stash him there. If he works out, great. If not, when Brady's 55 years old, there'll be another guy behind him.
Hey-o.
You know, that's what
Hey!
I'll take it. Trask, I like it.
I like it too, Shregs. All right, finally, the Saints, the last team, the only team NFL.com is saying did not need an offensive lineman or offensive line help. Instead, maybe wideout, defensive lineman. I want to talk about a bit of a head scratcher, I feel like, on draft night. Nobody knew this was coming with this Peyton Turner kid, and yet he was taken. He was the defensive end from Houston. Almost everyone had the Saints taking a wideout or a corner in round 1. New Orleans adds a pass rusher. They already have one, right? They've got Cam Jordan, they've got Marcus Davenport there, and it surprised a lot of people. He wasn't a name that we heard a lot in the draft process, and that's what Sean Payton wanted. Get this, Turner's head coach at Houston, Dana Holgerson, said that he called Payton after the draft because he was a little peeved, Striggs. Why don't you call me? Why don't you say, give me a scouting report on Turner? Why don't you tell me anything? Yeah. And Sean told him that he didn't want to let the cat out of the bag. They wanted to keep it a secret for some reason. Now, Sean has raved about Turner's makeup, his skill set, his high energy. Turner's already showing off that energy. Look at this. He got right back to work with training as soon as the draft ended. Like it was nothing. He's back out there. And I put out some feelers in the building. I'm hearing Michael Strahan-like comparisons, which is incredible. Cam Jordan, of course, big, athletic. Hits the ground running at 100 miles per hour. So I'm excited to see this kid. It's not something that I saw coming, but Sean Payton, coming from the Bill Parcells School of Thought, you can never have enough pass rushers.
Absolutely, great pick.
Did you see that coming? Was that kind of like a weird head scratcher?
No, but he was a second-round or first-round guy, and Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis, when they take a guy, you just trust, and that usually works out. So there's not as many critics of that pick as you might have saw of maybe the Raiders or some other ones that went earlier. But yes, Peyton Turner, I'm excited to see him.
At GMFB with your thoughts. We'll keep doing this every day, division by division.